So whether you've been following our build for quite some time, or if you're brand new and thinking about picking up a Camaro SS 1LE, I'm here to tell you it is the perfect blend between a daily driver and a competitive track car. Today we're going to go over every single modification that we have done to our Camaro SS 1LE, as well as how much everything costs. So before we go ahead and get into all of the exterior modifications, I want to start off with the base price of the Camaro SS 1LE. Last year you could buy a very clean, low mileage SS 1LE for right around 30 grand. The market has definitely changed over the past year, and you could roughly expect to pay $35,000 for a good example SS 1LE. So we're going to use that as the base price to start adding all of these modifications off of. I think the very first thing to note when we start to look at the car is our conversion to a ZL1 1LE front bumper. Now the reason why we did that is because we get a whole bunch of extra cooling from this front bumper. Not only do you get added radiator ducts, but you have a much larger grille as well that's letting air flow straight to those massive radiators, keeping the car cool on track and able to turn lap after lap. Now it also helps that it looks awesome on this car. It's extremely aggressive and I absolutely love this upgrade. Now the only real downside I see to this bumper is a lot of people will say that it's a fake ZL1. As long as you're honest with them and tell them that it is an SS, I think it's a great upgrade and really changes the look of the front end. Now this part costs $750 and was about $300 to get painted at a local shop here in Georgia. We also paired this front bumper with an Apr Front Splitter. This splitter not only makes the front end look that much more aggressive when it's in somebody's rear view, but it adds a lot more downforce to the front of the car, which really helps with balancing the car out. You'll notice in the back we have added an additional wing, and we'll get to that in a second here. Now an Apr splitter is going to run you roughly $450 and really adds a whole bunch of character to the front end, as well as providing additional downforce. It does have an opening for the underside radiator as well, so you're not blocking any of the cooling ducts, and it's just very effective in what it does. We were able to turn lap after lap at Road Atlanta, and the car felt planted the entire way around. Now before we dive into the wheels and tires on this car, I want to call out a part that a lot of you guys have asked about, and that's these Fender Flares right here. Now what those actually are Z06 Fender Flares right off of a C7 Z06 or a Grand Sport. And what's so amazing about these Fender Flares is they look like they're OEM and they were meant to go onto the Camaro. They fit up extremely nicely, and we will have an install coming up for those very shortly. Those roughly cost about $100. You can pick them up on a number of sites. I will link a website down below where you guys can go pick those up if you're interested, because I know a lot of you guys were asking. Now if you're looking from the side of the car, you might notice that we added some carbon fiber side skirts. These are ZL1-esque style skirts, and they really add to that side view profile of this car. We bought ours in carbon fiber and it cost us right around $300 shipped, and I think it's a great value. It's not going to add a whole bunch of performance, but really adds to the look of the car itself. Now one of the parts that gets easily the most attention on this car is this massive Apr rear wing. This is a GTC 300 rear wing. Now previously the last two cars that I have owned have been all-wheel drive. So I wanted a very balanced rear end, and this wing does its job perfectly. At around 0 degrees of angle of attack, it provides 350 pounds of downforce, which is more than the OEM ZL1 1LE wing. Now an Apr GTC 300 wing is going to run you about $2,000. It's really for those hardcore track rats out there that want to literally push every single second out of the car they can. Now coming around to the rear of the car, we added some clear taillights. I just thought they looked a whole lot better against the Hyper Blue. These cost us right around $300. Now you might notice that the rear end of our car is actually two different colors, and if you guys have been following this build for a while, you would know that we wrapped our car at home with a DIY camo wrap. And this is one of those love it or hate it modifications. Some people say that this is one of the coolest wraps they've ever seen. Other people have said it's one of the ugliest they've ever seen. Leave a comment down below and let me know what your personal thoughts are on this camo wrap. Personally, I think it gets a whole bunch of attention and really sticks out Now this whole DIY half and half only costs $250. Now if you were to take this to a wrap shop and have them do it for you, it probably costs you right around $1,500 to $3,000, depending on your location and who you get to do it. So a nice DIY for $250 definitely made the car extremely unique. Now next up, we're gonna actually have our wheel and tire package. Now we wanted as wide of a tire as we could put on this car, so we bought some BC Forged RZ05 wheels that are in ZL1 1LE fitment. Now these are 18 by 11s in the front, plus 11, and then 18 by 12 in the rear, plus 41. Now these themselves cost about $3,000 to buy, but they are so light compared to the stock wheels. We saved right around 40 pounds by just making the switch to these wheels alone. And for those of you that track your car, you would know that every single pound counts and only makes the car that much faster. Now we are actually running some Vorschlag camber plates. These camber plates themselves retail for roughly $550, but they allow us to run all the way up to -4 degrees of camber in the front. Now we currently have it set to -3.2, and that is the perfect balance for this car in its current setup. Now, if you guys are doing a lot more daily driving and road trips, I'd recommend anywhere between 2.3 and -2.7. But for our setup, the tire wear is perfect, the grip's great, and the back end is as happy as can be. So that's gonna wrap up our exterior upgrades to this car. So let's go ahead and quickly dive inside so I can show you guys what we've done in terms of safety upgrades for taking this car on track. I have a full Studio RSR cage. Not only does it look great, it fits in the car perfectly and just adds that added safety if anything was to go wrong. Now the Studio RSR cage will run you roughly $2,100, but for those of you that track your car, safety is key. Now we did go to a carbon fiber steering wheel from Windhammer Motorsports. This retailed for $800, and we opted for the carbon fiber shift paddles. It's a well worth it upgrade. It's something that you use every single day, you touch every day and interact with. So that is by far one of my favorite modifications on this car. Now, one thing that you guys don't see in here right now is our upgraded racing seats. This car is still a daily driver. In between using this car to commute and taking to the track, we actually swapped those seats out. The entire setup for the racing seats and harnesses cost me right around $1,500, so let's add that to the tally. And then finally, let's end everything with the performance modifications that we've added to this car so far. Now this is going to be the biggest part of our version 2 of this car. Currently we have a cold air intake from GM Performance. This roughly costs $450. And at first, I really didn't think there was going to be a whole bunch of sound difference between the stock intake and the aftermarket intake. Over time, I've really grown to love the sound of this intake, and it's something that I'll definitely be keeping on the car moving forward. Now, underneath the car, we actually have a full catback for the Borla Attack exhaust, and I'll insert some sound clips down below for you guys to hear how good this car sounds on track. And we have a full install video as well as sound clips in that install video for you guys to go check out if you're interested. The NPP exhaust, full exhaust, costs right around $2,000. If you guys are interested in buying only the axle back, it'll run you right around $1,500. Either way, it's a well worth it upgrade and the car sounds amazing. Now, as far as version 2 is concerned, a lot of it's going to have to do with our engine here. Not only are we going to be upgrading to E85, but we're also going to be adding headers to the car as well as a C8 LT2 intake, which should open right around 20 horsepower on this car. The name of the game for the very first year of ownership was reliability. I think we achieved that quite well. This car has performed flawlessly from track day to track day, getting to and from work and long road trips. It is the most versatile vehicle that I've ever owned. So by far, this has been one of my favorite cars that I've ever owned. Daily driving and track use, this car really can do it all. Despite all the money we've spent, I believe every single modification we put on this car has been worth it. It has upgraded the driving experience of this car in some way and has made it a better track car as well as a better daily. Without further ado, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Do you think we spent the money in the right places? Is there anything that you guys want to see next? And stay tuned for updates on our SS 1LE-R. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.